So as I mentioned in the very first video, we got to do some prep work before we start jumping into the fun stuff, the project work, the building stuff, the launching stuff, which I love. I love that stuff and I can't wait to get to it. But I've learned the hard way, not to be too blunt, you got to prep it right. You got to prep it right. Otherwise, you're positioning yourself to fall right over your feet, right? I don't want you leaning so far over your skis that the slightest thing turns you into that guy falling down the ski jump in, Wild World of Sports thing. Maybe that's an old dude thing. Maybe it was whatever. Anyway, got to do your prep work. So what are we talking about? Before you jump into the fun stuff, here are the things you got to do. First, list all your channels. Right now, remember, we talked about what employer brand is. It is the perception that comes from engaging with all these different touch points. I need you to define all the touch points. Now, not all the touch points are going to be yours to control, right? So if we're saying the selection of product features impacts people's perception. Oh, this is a company that really seems to care about me and they added all these cool tools that makes me use it. I like this company a lot more. That's great. Are you going to tell the project manager and the product manager what to do? No. But good to know. You want to list this stuff. It will be handy down the road. But in prep work phase, this is when you figure out everything you do. You got LinkedIn. Are you using it? Can you use it? Should you use it? Well, the answer to the last one is if you can, you absolutely use it. It is where job seekers go to look for information. So you want to capture that. You got a Facebook channel you have access to? Grab it, write it down. You got a LinkedIn channel or an Instagram channel? You got a TikTok? What are you doing actively? What is the company doing actively that is allowing people to absorb information about the company? Talk to the comms team. What things are they doing that you need to be aware of? Just so you know, you might every blue moon have an idea you can throw at them to insert into their content calendar. Maybe not every day, but it's good to know that it's there. Remember, what they do is impacting the brand that you have to use. So define all the channels. Career site, yeah. Your application process, absolutely. Videos you've created, whether you stuck them on YouTube or embedded them on LinkedIn or anything else, yeah, you want to capture that stuff. You want to get into the real nitty gritty. Go into your ATS and look at every automated email. Yeah, thanks for applying. Hey, we really want to talk to you. Can we schedule this meeting? Can we schedule this phone screen? Recruiter would love to pass you to the hiring manager. You want to schedule that. All the automated, including everyone's favorite, thanks but no thanks. List them. Capture that information. You want to know what that is. Do you have a process by which you respond to Glassdoor reviews? Right? Do you write something up, ad hoc as you need to, or do you kind of ignore and pretend they don't exist? If you have access to Glassdoor reviews, if you think about that, and by the way, as of this recording, you do not need to pay for those. So even if you don't pay for Glassdoor, separate conversation, you can still respond to reviews, positive or negative. So you should consider that. It's a channel you can use to shape people's perception. That's what we're trying to do, remember? Remember that your corporate brand is bigger than you. They use LinkedIn. They have signage. They have packaging. They have messaging that goes out into the world. They've got retail environment. If you're a retail company, if you have a retail position, press releases, the news, stock prices. Even small companies have stock sometimes, so why not? Customer service. Do you deliver stuff in trucks? Trucks. Anything where people can see your brand and absorb information about that brand, list it. You're not always going to be able to do anything with it. In fact, for a lot of these, for the first 3 to 6 months, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Don't sweat that. But capturing that is how I start to get your head working, how to get those gears grinding where you're like, oh, wow, it's a lot of stuff I have access to or I could have access to. Or once I have a couple of wins under my belt, which we're going to get to, now I got to start to say, hey, we have to put something on those trucks. Why not a message that serves the consumer side and the employer brand side? Can be done. Absolutely can be done. But you don't start there. That's like walking onto a baseball diamond in a professional game and saying, I'm going to hit a home run. No. Try not to get struck out first day, right? Get some small wins. Just get on base. Bunt if you have to. Get hit by the ball if you got to. Get your wins first. Slowly but surely. This is a process. Okay. You've collected everything you're going to do. Now you got to do the not so fun stuff. You got to get your brand standards in order. You got to go talk to your marketing comms team. Bro, if you're a company of any size whatsoever, at some point someone wrote down, hey, our logo always looks like this. Hey, that color is exactly this shade of blue. Hey, if you're going to use the logo, you got to put a little white space around it, and you can't stick a little dragon on it because it's cute, right? There are brand guidance, got brand standards, things you can and can't do with the logo. And usually if you've got one for the logo, you've got one for the entire kind of visual identity, right? That's the logo, that's the tagline, your colors, your fonts, all sorts of stuff. Sometimes your tone of voice. Sometimes you get lucky. Someone's built a really good style guide and you can leverage that. But the work you're doing should never deviate that. Think of that as the maximum size of the field you're allowed to play in. Some days you're going to push right up against that fence, and some days you're going to be right in the middle, and that's fine. But you should never get outside that space, because the second you do, that's a chance for someone in marketing and comms who, let us be honest, probably have a little more sway and pull with the business, and you don't want that kind of trouble. You do not want them unhappy with you and grumpy with you because you won't abide by brand standards. Part of working with brand standards is finding a friend in that team, buying them a coffee, buying them some donuts, buttering up like however you gotta. Make a friend, because there'll be plenty of times when you'll say, hey, I read the brand standards, I understand the brand standards, and I made this. Does this abide by the brand standards? Now, two things you want to have happen. One, you want them to say, yeah, hey, that works, that's aligned. Hey, this person cares about doing it the right way. Love it, love it. Two, they might say, and this is a big win, this is great. This would, you know what, I think you should nudge that up just a smidge. That will make it a little cleaner. You probably don't have a designer's visual eye. If you're a recruiter, you're a recruiting leader, you're an HRBP, you have not spent hours and hours and hours and months and months and months staring at pixels like they have. They have expertise. You want to leverage that expertise, and you do that by making a friend. Let them guide you on how to make your visuals just a little better. We will talk more about visuals in a later class, but for now, understand your style guide, understand what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do, and start making some friends. Once you understand that style guide, if you have a complete style guide, not everybody does, but if you do, consider making a kind of subset of the style guide. So if your color palette for the company is 5 colors, and that's a good color palette, you might decide that 2 of them are yours. It's not that no one else can use them. It means that when you show those 2 colors, that's your way of being consistent visually. You're still within the brand parameters, but you're saying, I'm focusing in that space. Right? A company with 5 colors, they can use different combinations to designate this is an investor relations message, this is a corporate message, this is a consumer message, this is an employer brand message, and all still connect to the larger whole. So figure out what that would look like. Make your own smaller style guide that lives within the correct bounds. So what's your font? What's your font size? What's your tone of voice? Make it and then hand that to your new friend over in marketing or comms or graphic design or creative, wherever they are, and say, hey, I just need you to double check my work. Let them guide you. Make sure you capture that stuff. When you've got all that, when you're ready for the big ask, when you've made that friend, I want you to make a request. I want you to make a request for some very simple templates. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. One, you do it yourself and ask for someone to double check it. That may be how you have to go. Depending on the company, depending on the resource, depending on how much of a good friend this person is, depending how busy they are, you might have to make the first draft yourself. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that in a second. Alternatively, you can ask them to make these templates, and they will take care of that for you. That's really kind of this direction, because ultimately what you want are 6-ish, depending on how brave or how bold you're going to be about this. The templates are going to look like this. They're going to be 1 for open role, a visual you use every time you have an open role that you're promoting. Just get through this with me, okay? 2, an employee testimonial. Someone said something nice about you. Typically, it's half the screen, half the page is a face, and the other half is the quote from the person who said it, whose face is on the other side, and it's boom, and you put a little logo at the bottom to brand it and make it all pretty, right? To keep it concise. Pretty standard stuff, not too crazy. 3, a company announcement. Hey, we're going to be at a conference. Hey, something's about to happen. Hey, we just hired someone off the board, or hired a new board member, or any number of things. Any number of things. It's kind of generic, but you want something in your back pocket for news stories or items or things you need to talk about that you didn't anticipate. It's kind of a catch-all, right? You want a template for showing off your work, meaning whatever it is you build, whatever your company does, whatever they launch, whatever they produce, you want a way to show it off. You are going to control that so that it's not just, hey, look, this is a great product. You are going to use it to say, hey, look at this great product designed by this team of 10 people. I want to talk about the 10 people. See what you're doing? You're talking about something that the consumer marketing side will care about, but you're doing it in a way that serves you. But you need a template for that. Ask for that. Another template for awards. This is where I start to go, you know what, maybe you don't need this. If you push comes to shove, I leave this off the table. If it's a bigger ask, if that friend you made is starting to get a little antsy and wants a little bit more than donuts and wants a bottle, right? Maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe you're not ready for that kind of friend commitment. Maybe you are. Go for it. Good for you. That's fantastic. But if you need to leave them off, leave the awards one off. You can even leave the showing off your work one off. And finally, and this one isn't an optional one, because this is going to work into a 1 or 2 projects we're about to talk about. You want a way to show off a way of describing your brand, a visual way, right? So you decide that the thing you want people to know about your company is that you care about people doing their best work by doing X and Y and Z. You're going to look at that, you're going to stare at that idea, and you're going to come up with a pithy line, a tight little line that kind of encapsulates that or sparks that thinking in somebody. That's kind of like your punchy headline you're going to use a lot. Make it visual. Ask your designer to help you make that pretty. You're going to stick it on your career site. You're going to stick it on job postings. You're going to stick it on, you're going to make banners for your Glassdoor. You're going to make banners for LinkedIn, maybe. You've got all sorts of uses for it, but you can't just have dry text. So ask your designer for some help. If you don't have a designer yet, or that designer is not ready to build for you and you need to do this yourself, go on to Canva, go on to, Clickify. There are a number of free tools or near free tools that you can use. You go in and they have lots of templates. The best part about these tools is that their stuff is specced out. It's sized out perfectly for social media. So you can say, I need one that's 1200 pixels by 627 pixels. That's a perfect LinkedIn kind of rectangle. By the way, LinkedIn also does squares. So if you do one that's 1200 by 1200 square, great. Make versions for every single one. They'll work perfectly for LinkedIn, and those square ones will look perfect on Instagram, and those wide ones will look pretty good on Facebook, and you can use them. So get a template that's sized for social. Go on to Canva, find something you like, change the colors to suit your color palette to get that brand standard, and then start thinking about, okay, I need one for an employee testimonial. I need a space here for a picture. I need a place to put the logo, which I've downloaded off the internet, and using my fonts, I put the quote over here. Do I have a background color? Do I have a background text or texture? Do I have a background image? How do I make this look good? Is it a dark image? So should I put white text on top of it? Get it as close as you can. That's where those templates that you see are super helpful because it gets you halfway there. It does a lot of the heavy lifting of graphic design for you. Super helpful. So at the end of a prep phase, right? You know all the channels you have access to. You know all the channels that are kind of informing people's sense of the employer brand, and you're starting to develop a library of visuals that you can use over and over again. Next step, let's make a strategy. And I love this part. You can't wait. I can't wait to get to this. So I'll see you next video.